Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about a couple example teams for the Spooky Cup. I've heard from quite a few people that they don't really know where to start for team building for this, and I was kind of the same way. This is tough because there's a lot of Pokemon that aren't used a ton that are pretty good in this tournament, so it's tough to come up with a good team. I've got some ideas here that I'm going to share with you guys. I don't know that I love any of these particular teams just yet, but they're a start. I think they're just missing something, but it should give you guys some ideas. And then obviously I'm open for feedback. If you guys see something that can make these teams better, let me know. But yeah, hopefully this should give you guys some ideas of at least where to start. I haven't found the team that I'm going to go with just yet either. But again, these are some solid ideas, at least to get started with. So the first team here is a Sand Rush team. So in my tier ranking video, I mentioned that there was a Lycanroc that's available that has Sand Rush. So actually, the only Lycanroc that is available is the Midnight form. So on the Pokemon website, when they announced who was available, it just said Lycanroc. In every other Pokemon that has multiple forms, you can use any of their forms. So I thought it would be the same thing with Lycanroc, but it turns out you can only use the Midnight form. So the only Sand Rush Pokemon is Dracovish. So I made a Sand Rush team here with Jigglypuff and Dracovish. So Jigglypuff obviously sets up the sand, and then Dracovish gets Sand Rush. So this is obviously one good lead that you could have. And the Dracovish is trained to have just enough speed that it outspeeds Dragapult, so that if you're going against Coalossal Dragapult, your Dracovish will go first, and then be able to Fishious Rend the Coalossal and knock it out. Or it could Dragon Rush and knock out the Dragapult. So while I'm on the Dracovish here, you can see that I put Choice Band on Dracovish. That's just to get a little extra power out of it. Obviously, you can't have Strong Jaw because we have Sand Rush. So its attack isn't overwhelming, it's just 90. So when it's fully maxed out, it's still only at 156, so the Choice Band gives a little more punch. You're not always going to use Fishious Rend, right? You might use Dragon Rush sometimes, you might use Crunch sometimes. So the Choice Band helps give it a little more punch and to make sure that it's getting the knockouts that you need. On Jigglypuff, I wanted to give Jigglypuff my weakness policy, but I didn't have a great way to activate my own weakness policy. And when I have weakness policy, I like to be able to activate it myself. So I actually put the weakness policy on Dhelmise, which I'll talk about in a second. So I put an Assault Vest on Jigglypuff because it's really bulky to begin with, but its special defense isn't great. Now, when the Sandstorm is up, that basically gives him an Assault Vest. So if you didn't know this, when Sand is up, Rock types special defense is increased by 1.5, same thing as an Assault Vest. So basically it's like having two Assault Vests on. So that makes him even more bulky, which is great. I was playing against a Wash Rotom the other day, and it did Hydro Pump to my Jigglypuff, and it only did like a quarter damage, so it might have even done less than that. So having the Sand Up and the Assault Vest makes it just that much more bulky, especially if you're Dynamaxing this. And then it still has the ability to boost its own attack with Max Knuckle with the Body Press. So Jigglypuff still could be a really good Dynamax option here. One thing that I really like about this team is that it can play fast or it can play slow. So I was just talking about Jigglypuff and how it could be a good Dynamax option. Well, I have Mimikyu here who can set up Trick Room. So obviously Mimikyu is a good Trick Room setter because of its ability to disguise. And if you give it a Mental Herb, it's pretty hard to stop it from getting up Trick Room. So if I want, I can lead Mimikyu, get up a Trick Room, and then I can play slower with Jigglypuff and Dhelmise. And I mentioned how I gave Dhelmise weakness policy, and Mimikyu has Shadow Sneak. So if I'm able to lead Mimikyu Dhelmise and maybe protect Dhelmise and set up Trick Room the first turn, then the next turn I can Dynamax Dhelmise and set off my weakness policy with Shadow Sneak and start dealing out a ton of damage. So that's why I put the weakness policy on Dhelmise, because I can actually activate that weakness policy with the Mimikyu. If I want to get up Trick Room and I feel like it's going to be tough for Mimikyu to get off the Trick Room itself, I have Volcarona, who I can lead next to Mimikyu and Rage Powder, and now I can guarantee that I'm going to get up Trick Room. So if I want to go the slow route, I know I can guarantee that I can get up Trick Room by pairing Mimikyu with Volcarona, and then I got Jigglypuff and Dolomise in the back. So I can play slow if I want to, and then I obviously can play fast with Jigglypuff Dracovish, setting up the sand for Dracovish and, using Sand Rush. And I also have the Spectre and Volcarona. So this is a good lead. Again, I would be leading Volcarona here to do Rage Powder to pull the attention away from Spectre, and then once Spectre gets rolling, it can really, be, possibly the best Pokemon in this tournament, especially with a Life Orb on it to get a little bit more power. But once Spectre picks up a knockout, that boosts its special attack. So once you're able to pick up one knockout with Spectre, now can really start rolling because it's just going to start dealing more and more and more damage. And the other nice thing is that the Max Ghost move lowers the target's defense, and I got a lot of physical attackers on my team. So if I do lead Spectre first and I'm doing a lot of max Phantasms and I'm lowering my opponent's defense, now I'm going to bring in some physical attackers behind Spectre to hit Pokemon with lowered defenses. So it all kind of works nicely together. I don't know if this is a team that I would use just yet. Like I said at the beginning, I feel like it's just missing something, but I think it's a really nice start to a team. It can play fast and slow. It's got a lot of really good things going for it. So next I made a Dragapult Coalossal team, and what I found when I was making this Dragapult Coalossal team is that I found that I like Shiftry a lot because obviously when you have Dragapult and Coalossal, people are probably going to bring out water and ground Pokemon against Coalossal because Coalossal takes ×4 damage from water and ground. And obviously Shiftry is going to be a great counter to those ground and water Pokemon. So I'm sure you guys know how the Dragapult Coalossal works. Dragapult gets Surf, it's the fastest Pokemon in the format, so you use Surf to activate Coalossal Steam Engine and then activate its weakness policy as well. So now Steam Engine maximizes Coalossal speed. It boosts its speed by 6 stages. The weakness policy obviously boosts special attack by 2, and now Coalossal is the fastest Pokemon on the field, and it's doing a ton of damage. And it has the best G-Max move, G-Max Volcalith, which does a ton of residual damage at the end of each turn. So it's a really great duo, right? So you can see that I put Life Orb on Dragapult. This is so that I can use Dragapult as a Dynamax option as well. So I'm not just locked into Dragapult being a support Pokemon. Dragapult could potentially be the best Pokemon in this tournament. So I didn't want to limit it just to being a support Pokemon. I wanted it to also be able to be my Dynamax Pokemon and be doing a ton of damage. So I gave Dragapult Life Orb, I gave it max attack, max speed, so that it can be used to activate Coalossal Steam Engine, but it can also be used as the featured Dynamax player itself. So like I was saying, that duo is going to attract a lot of attention because it's so strong. So you can get your opponent to lead those ground and water type Pokemon, and then you can lead someone like Shiftry. And Shiftry has 2 good moves that have an increased critical hit ratio, Leaf Blade and Night Slash. So I gave it Scope Lens so that I can use it as a non-Dynamax Pokemon and potentially get critical hits, which is a big deal, especially when people are doing things like setting up screens or boosting their defenses. Critical hits ignore all of that, so it's really nice to have a Pokemon like this who's able to do critical hits. I also put Brick Break on it in case you do run across screens and you just want to get rid of those screens. So Shiftry is a lot better than I originally thought that it was. So it's got a pretty solid attack, and with its Chlorophyll ability, it's able to be the fastest Pokemon on the field as long as the sun is up, and Sableye is used to put up the sun. So Sableye gets Sunny Day, and Sableye's Prankster, right? So Sableye can just set up the sun to start the match, and now Shiftry is the fastest Pokemon. So since Shiftry has Chlorophyll, you only have to invest about 140 in EVs. The reasoning for this EV training is I ran across a lot of Amistars when I first started putting teams together. So what people are doing with Amistar is they're using the weak armor ability, which doubles its speed if it's hit by a physical attack, and then they hit it with a priority move. And now its speed is doubled, and they're usually setting off weakness policy, and that makes Amistar like really good. The problem with Amistar is it's rock and water, so it takes ×4 damage from grass. So I made this Shiftry just fast enough at 118 so that when Sunny Day is activated, it's just fast enough to outspeed Amistar when Amistar has its ability activated as well. So I made Shiftry so that it's fast enough to outspeed Amistar. Now, that means that this is also fast enough to outspeed Dragapult, right? This is going to be enough that when the sun is up, it's going to outspeed Dragapult. So Shiftry has a lot of really good things going for it. Leaf Blade and Nightshade are two very good attacks, and along with the Scope Lens, you get a decent amount of critical hits, which could end up, winning you a game. And running it with Sableye, getting that Sunny Day up, it makes it the fastest Pokemon on the field, and it's able to get going right away and do a lot of damage. The other thing that's great about Sableye is it gets Fake Out, which is obviously a great move, and then it gets Prankster Quash. So what Quash does is it forces the target to move last. The only problem with Quash is that you can't use it against a Dark type. So Dark types are immune to status moves that have their priority boosted by Prankster. So you can't Quash any of the Dark type Pokemon, but you'll be able to Quash anybody else, and that's going to make them move last, which obviously could be huge. So for example, I haven't talked about Crawdaunt yet, but Crawdaunt has adaptability, which means that its stab moves are multiplied by 2 instead of 1.5. So its water and dark moves are going to be multiplied by 2 instead of 1.5 because it's a water or dark Pokemon. So another thing that I could do against an opposing Coalossal is I could lead Sableye, Crawdaunt, and really I could quash either one of the Pokemon. I could quash Dragapult or Coalossal, and I could knock out either one of them. It just depends which one I want to knock out. If they see me leading Crawdaunt and I'm expecting them to switch out their Coalossal, I could still quash the Dragapult and crunch the Dragapult, and that's going to knock it out. So it gives you that flexibility. It's a great answer to an opposing Coalossal Dragapult. So if you're going against another Coalossal Dragapult team, Sableye Crawdaunt could be a really good lead. This thing has a pretty good, it's got a really good attack. The only issue with this thing is that it's really slow. So since it's really slow, I just maxed out its hit points. I'm not even going to try to make this thing faster because it's going to be going after all the faster Pokemon anyways. So I might as well make it as bulky as I can. So I maxed out its hit points and I gave it Assault Vest because you can see its special defense is really bad. But when you max out its hit points, you give it an Assault Vest, and if you were to Dynamax this thing, now it's actually pretty bulky, and it can take quite a few hits. And with adaptability, it's going to do a ton of damage with its water and dark moves. And paired with Sableye, it doesn't even matter how slow it is. If you're going to quash somebody on the opposing team, Crawdaunt's going to go before them anyways. So Sableye can really help out Shiftry and Crawdaunt here. So this team works pretty well. The last thing I did here is I felt like I needed a fairy Pokemon because I was having troubles with other dragons and other dark Pokemon. So I felt like I needed a fairy. I feel like Hatterene's probably the best fairy on the game here. And I just gave Hatterene Focus Sash because it isn't the bulkiest Pokemon in the world. Its hit points aren't very good. Even though I maxed out the hit points, it's still not that great. So it isn't super bulky. So it can be prone to being one shot, but that's why I gave it the Focus Sash. So this could help me get up Trick Room. So I could play slow with this team, just like the last team I was talking about. I could set up Trick Room with Hatterene, and then Coalossal's really slow, right? So if I don't activate its Steam Engine, it's slow and I could use it under Trick Room. Crawdaunt, I just talked about how it's really slow, so I could set up Trick Room, use Crawdaunt, use Coalossal. Shiftry isn't incredibly fast if the sun isn't up, so it could do okay under a Trick Room. So this is another team that could potentially play that slow route as well if I needed to. And then Hatterene obviously does some great damage and has a great G-Max move. So that's why I added Hatterene to this team. I felt like it was a good missing piece. So this felt like a pretty strong team. So if you watch my tier list video, I talked about how you can use Liepard and Hatterene together. So this team that I made right here is just a strict Trick Room team. and that's what I tried to make with it. I don't feel great about this team. Again, this is one that I feel like it's just missing something. I've never made a team like this with Liepard and Hatterene before. So this is one that, maybe if you've got a good idea for how to make this stronger, just let me know. But I feel like, again, this is a solid start. So the way that Hatterene and Liepard works is you can max guard with Hatterene by using Trick Room. So if you Dynamax or Gigantamax your Pokemon, any status move is just max guard, right? So if I use Trick Room as my max guard, and then I do Copycat with Liepard, Liepard will do Trick Room, and now the Trick Room is up. The problem with that is you waste a turn of your Dynamax, but it helps you get up the Trick Room. If you're playing against this really fast team, maybe all you need to do is get up Trick Room, and then you'll just sweep through them. So that's where this kind of strategy could work out really well. This is just your standard Hatterene here. I gave it a Life Orb because I wanted to do a ton of damage. This is different than the Hatterene on the other team, right? This team is built around Hatterene, whereas the other team, Hatterene was just kind of a throw-in. I felt like I needed a fairy, and I felt like Hatterene was the best one. This one, the team is built around Hatterene, so I have the Life Orb on it so that it can do a lot of damage here. The reason that I have Mystical Fire is because Hatterene is weak to Steel types, so Mystical Fire is going to help you deal with those Steel type Pokemon. Other than that, obviously I got Dazzling Gleam and Psychic here. I know some people put Expanding Force on Hatterene. I just put Psychic because it does a little bit more damage, and I don't have a Pokemon like Indeedee. Indeedee's not in this tournament to just set up the Psychic terrain. I know that I could Dynamax and do the max Psychic move, and that's going to set up the Psychic terrain so that when my Dynamax is over, I could do Expanding Force. So I guess I could do that. I just felt like I'd rather have Psychic on Hatterene. Maybe that's the wrong choice. I don't know. Liepard, I just tried to make bulky. I still gave it the Focus Sash because I don't want it to be able to get one shot, but I tried to make it as bulky as possible because I don't need it to be fast for any reason. This is a Trick Room team, so I don't need Liepard to be fast. The moves I put on it, obviously Copycat, and then Foul Play, Fake Out, and Fake Tears. So obviously Foul Play is a really good move to have. It could probably one-shot a Dragapult because Dragapult's such a strong physical attacker. So it's really good for the strong physical attackers in the format. Fake Out's obviously a great move, and then Fake Tears again to help support Hatterene. That lowers the target special defense by 2. So once I have my Trick Room set up, now I can Fake Tears and attack a Pokemon and hopefully knock it out with Hatterene. I added Araquanid to this team because Araquanid's probably one of the best Pokemon under Trick Room in this format because of Water Bubble. So Water Bubble boosts its water moves by 2, and it can't be burned. So that's a big deal for a Pokemon who is a physical attacker because burn cuts their attack in half. So can't be burned, doubles its water moves, and then I gave it Mystic Water, so you pretty much want to use Liquidation on this thing, or Dynamax it and use Max Geyser. You pretty much just want to use its water move because its water move is going to do so much damage. But I also have Leech Life so that it's able to recover some health, and it is a bug type Pokemon, so that's going to get Stab. And then lastly, I just put Crunch on it because there's going to be a lot of Ghost Pokemon in this tournament, and there's also going to be Psychic Pokemon, so it felt like Crunch was a good last move here. Mimikyu is just kind of here as another way to get up Trick Room. If I don't like the Liepard Hatterene lead, then I can still set up Trick Room with Mimikyu, and I put Swords Dance on Mimikyu, so maybe they aren't expecting my Mimikyu to be offensive. And if I can get off a Swords Dance with Mimikyu, now Mimikyu is dealing out a ton of damage. I give it Mental Herb again so that someone can't taunt it and stop me from getting up Trick Room. So this basically guarantees Mimikyu is going to get up Trick Room, like I said before, and then Sword Dance could potentially make it a lot more powerful. This one I gave max attack, max hit points for running it under a Trick Room, so I don't need to invest in speed again. So yeah, if I'm able to get off a Swords Dance, maybe Mimikyu is able to deal out a lot of damage. I got Rotom on here because I felt like I needed a grass type Pokemon. I don't know if I love Rotom here, but I don't know. I liked that it gives me access to electric and grass moves. Someone who could give this team a lot of troubles would be Corviknight. Corviknight is a steel type Pokemon, so it'd be great against Hatterene and Mimikyu. and Rotom is great against Corviknight because Corviknight is weak to electric and it's more a physically defensive Pokemon. So Rotom is great against him. And again, the reason I went with Rotom is because I felt like I needed a grass Pokemon on this team. So it just kind of felt like it fit. Again, I don't know if that's a great decision. Maybe I could come up with something better there. But yeah, that's what I was thinking there. And then lastly, Incineroar. Obviously, Incineroar is great in this format. I just gave Incineroar an Assault Vest here, and then Flare Blitz, Fake Out, U-Turn, and Darkest Lariat. Incineroar is obviously great for Intimidate and Fake Out. I could lead Incineroar and Mimikyu to get off my Trick Room instead of Liepard, Hatterene. So I could use Incineroar to fake out one of their Pokemon, and now there's absolutely no way that they can knock out Mimikyu and stop it from getting up Trick Room. So Incineroar is just an all-around great support Pokemon. So that's why I went with it here, and I felt like I needed a fire type. Incineroar kind of covers all that stuff. So last team idea here, this is a Dragapult Tangrowth team, and this is actually pretty popular right now. If you watch my tier list video, I put edit in the description. I missed that Tangrowth gets Rage Powder. Like, I just completely forgot about that, and I put Tangrowth in the C tier. Tangrowth is way better than that. Tangrowth should be in the A tier. So I feel like I just said Tangrowth gets Sleep Powder, which it does, but I meant to say Rage Powder. So since Tangrowth gets Sleep Powder and Rage Powder, that's why this Pokemon is so good. I don't know why I put Amnesia on this thing. So maybe I probably want Protect. Okay, so this might be the kind of a build that you want on Tangrowth. You're pretty much going to be using it for Rage Powder and Sleep Powder. So Rage Powder to draw attacks away from Dragapult, and then Sleep Powder obviously to put Pokemon to sleep, and then Leech Seed to keep Tangrowth on the field longer so that it can recover some health, and that's also doing residual damage to the opponent's Pokemon. So this is a really good Pokemon, definitely one I should have had in the A tier. I just made a mistake with that on the tier list. You're going to be seeing a lot of this Pokemon. So I put in Okaberry on this because a lot of times it's going to get targeted by fire attacks. So this will help you deal with one fire attack and maybe help Tangrowth stay on the field one more turn, which could be the difference in a game. The only problem with Tangrowth is that its special defense is awful. But if you just go max hit points, max special defense, now it's pretty bulky. It's got great physical defense to begin with, so that's why you don't really need to invest in it. So base hit points of 100 is pretty good. When you max that out, hit points at 207, anytime you have hit points over 200, that's good. So this is a bulky Pokemon, max out its special defense, and now it's going to be able to take a lot of hits, especially if you're able to get off a Leech Seed and get health back. It's just a great support Pokemon. It's something that you're going to be seeing a lot of in this tournament. So even if you're not using it, make sure that you have some kind of counter for it. Tangrowth is definitely one that I made a big mistake on in my tier list. This is a good Pokemon. This is a Life Orb Dragapult. I gave it Dragon Dance so that hopefully turn 1 I could use Rage Powder Dragon Dance and now just do tons of damage with Dragapult. It has Fly so that it can do max Airstream and then Dragon Darts and Phantom Force. So pretty common Dragapult set here. And then obviously the Tangrowth to support it. Incineroar I just talked about on the last team. It's one of the best support Pokemon that there is. So I threw Incineroar on here. Intimidate, again, is a great ability. It's got Fake Out, it's got Parting Shot, it's got Snarl. So this one is used to be a little bit more disruptive than the other one. But yeah, Incineroar is pretty much great on any team. Got Crawdaunt on here again. This is the same build that I had on the Crawdaunt on the other team, so I already talked about how that works. I put Corviknight on this team because Dragapult obviously doesn't do good against fairies, and Corviknight is one of the best steel types in this tournament. So with my Corviknight here, I gave it Iron Head and Brave Bird, and then I gave it Bulk Up and Roost. So obviously Roost so that it can heal 50% of its hit points, Bulk Up to boost its attack and defense. It doesn't have a great attack to begin with, but if you can get off just one Bulk Up, now it can be doing a ton of damage. And that's obviously increasing its defense as well, so that's going to make it a lot harder to knock out. So Corviknight could be a really good Pokemon if you let it get set up, and I talked about that when I made the tier list. Once Corviknight gets a couple bulk ups off, so if you're able to use Tangrowth to draw attention away from Corviknight and bulk up a couple times, now it's going to be really hard for your opponent to do anything with it. Lastly, on this team, I have a Choice Scarf Crocodile. I made this Crocodile just fast enough to outspeed Dragapult with his Choice Scarf. So at 143, that is just enough with the Choice Scarf to outspeed Dragapult. And it has high horsepower and Darkest Lariat, so same thing. I could use this against a Coalossal Dragapult team to either attack Coalossal or Dragapult, right? It's going to do super effective damage to both of them. It gets Intimidate, so I have 2 Intimidators here, which could be huge if you get your opponent to Dynamax a physical Pokemon, and then you switch in Crocodile and Incineroar and cut its attack in half. Now you basically just win the game. All right, I've been able to do that to opponents before. That's huge if you can just cut their Dynamax Pokemon's attack in half before they even get an attack off. So having double Intimidate on the team is great for those physical attackers. Adding the Choice Scarf is going to let Crocodile outspeed anything, and it gets a really strong move pool here. Ground and Dark are both really good in this format, so a Choice Scarf Crocodile could end up being a really solid Pokemon in this tournament. So that's why I decided to throw it onto this team as my last Pokemon here, especially if you're going against those Dragapult Coalossal teams. So that's everything that I've got for today. So again, if you guys have any ideas of how to make any of these teams better, please just let me know in the comments. Obviously, I'm open to any ideas to make these teams better. Like I said, this is just kind of a start. We got about a little over a week yet to finish off these teams, and I feel like this is a good starting point. So let me know if you like the video. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. And if you have any ideas to make these teams better, just let me know. And thanks for watching.